Fred Wall here. Today's topic is, what is better, the K1 Fiance Visa or the CR1 Spouse Visa?
VisaCoach. Fast, easy, and personal.
My name is Fred Wall, and I am the Visa Coach, known for front-loaded immigration presentations that tell your story, leading to fast and easy approval, and for my personal one-on-one attention that you receive as my client. I invented the three-step immigration success method, which anticipates the likely problems and skepticism your case might face, and then squashes those issues by working together with you on the ideal appearance of your case and preparation of my signature front-loaded presentation that tells your story, well, the way we want it heard. When properly implemented, my method helps win approval for your visa even before the interview starts. Now, when bringing your lover to live with you in the United States, you have two choices, and they both include marriage. Sorry, but U.S. immigration does not offer a boyfriend or girlfriend visa. What is available, if you have the intent to marry, are a fiancé visa called the K1, which allows her to visit the USA and marry you within 90 days, or a spouse visa called the CR1 or IR1, which allows her to enter the USA after you are already married. The visas are similar, but which is better for you depends upon your priorities. The three main considerations that most couples have are speed, cost, and how early can the spouse resume work in the United States. Now, if you want faster, then fiancé visa is about 6 months faster. If you want cheaper, then spouse visa costs about $900 less. And if she wants to work without delay, the spouse visa allows her to work immediately the same day she arrives. Now let me start by comparing the K1 and the CR1 processes. First of all, the K1 visa is a fiancé visa. You are both free to marry, but not married. This visa allows your foreign fiancé to enter the USA for up to 90 days. If she marries you within those 90 days, she is then eligible to apply for permanent residency and to stay in the USA and to obtain her green card. The spousal visa CR1 allows your foreign spouse who you already married to enter the United States, and her permanent residency is already pre-approved. The process for a K1 fiancé visa is as follows. First of all, you have to have met face-to-face. This does not count webcams or Skype or telephone calls. This means the two of you being physically in the same space, meeting each other, seeing each other, breathing the same air. That's the basic eligibility requirement. Then, once you have met, you want to marry and are engaged, and you will, with my help, submit a fairly substantial petition to USCIS, that's Homeland Security. Homeland Security reviews the petition and usually within 3 to 6 months later approves their part of it and passes the case on to the U.S. State Department. The U.S. State Department operates our consulates around the world. They'll send your case to the consulate that's closest to your fiancé. They invite her in for an interview, and that is when the visa is approved or denied. Once the visa is granted, the visa is good for 6 months, and she can travel to the USA. Once here, she gets 90 days to look over the situation and get married to you. Then the two of you once again apply to Homeland Security, USCIS. This time you are applying for permission for your new spouse to remain permanently in the USA. This is called applying for adjustment of status. She adjusts her status from a temporary 90-day visitor to a lawful permanent resident. The spousal visa process is similar. In this case, you first marry your foreign partner. That's usually done overseas, but if she is visiting the USA, you can do it here too. Eventually, she returns to her home country for further processing of her visa. You prepare and submit a substantial petition to USCIS. USCIS reviews and hopefully approves within 3 to 6 months. After this approval, they pass your case on to the Department of State to their National Visa Center called NVC, which is located in New Hampshire. Unlike a fiancé visa, where your case is only briefly handled by NVC and relatively quickly sent overseas to the consulate for processing. This time, for a spouse visa, the case remains in the USA at NVC. And the NVC requires that you submit another package to them, this time full of basic civil documents plus your affidavit of support and evidences of your income that prove that you are financially eligible for the visa. Once NVC confirms that they are satisfied that all the documents they have received are in order, then they will approve, at least, again, their part of the case, and then pass it on to the consulate overseas. And at the U.S. consulate, she has an interview, submits final documents, and is approved or denied. The CR1 spouse visa process is what's called regular immigration. That means that she's already approved for permanent residency, so there's no need for any additional adjustment of status after she arrives. And in practice, once she arrives, she'll be given some forms at the border crossing and asked her just to fill them in and mail them in once she gets settled. That process triggers her getting a green card, which should arrive in the mail a few months later. The biggest difference between the process for the fiancé and spousal visa is how long it takes to be processed. The K1 visa on average takes between 5 to 7 months from the time the petition is submitted to Homeland Security to the time that the gal gets the visa attached to her passport. The spousal visa takes roughly 6 months longer, usually on average between 10 to 14 months total. One could say that the reason the spouse visa takes about 6 months longer is that it does include the approval of the spouse for permanent residency. While the fiancé visa process, permanent residency is done later after marriage, after her arrival in the States. Now, there often is confusion about the published processing times, and that is because the two departments of the government are handling each case. There's Homeland Security, and they publish their processing times, but no matter what they seem to publish, they always say the same thing, 5 months. Then there's the U.S. State Department, and they do not publish their processing time, but it does vary between a few months to many months, depending upon which consulate is processing the case. The numbers that I cite at other locations are most relevant because they are from start to when you actually get the visa versus one small piece of the chain. Now, there's a substantial difference in the cost between the fiancé visa and the spousal visa. That's primarily because the fiancé visa only allows the gal to come to the USA, but does not include the process to get her permanent residency, whereas the CR1 includes the green card. Now, when you actually calculate the full cost for the K1 visa, you should include the cost of the green card because, well, there's not much point in bringing your fiancé to the States and getting married and not also acquiring permanent residency for her so she can remain. So the numbers here are as follows. When you send in your petition to Homeland Security, you include a check for $340. Homeland Security approves their part, then passes the case on to the State Department and finally to the consulate that will conduct her interview. Prior to her interview, she's going to have a medical, and the medical fees on average are about $200. And she'll pay a K1 visa application fee of $265. This visa application fee is separate from and in addition to the other fees that were already paid to Homeland Security. Then finally, she comes to America. You marry and apply for adjustment of status. The first step of that is to verify that she has the proper set of inoculations, and usually a surgeon approved by Homeland Security will charge about $100 for this. Finally, you'll submit another petition, this time to Homeland Security, for the green card. The filing fee for adjustment of status is a whopping $1,070. All in all, from the time you start until she gets permanent residency, the grand total for a fiancé visa and permanent residency is $1,975. Now, the total fees to obtain a spouse visa are about $1,200, and about that means $800 less than that for a fiancé visa. The way it works is you start with submitting a petition to Homeland Security, paying $420. 3 to 6 months later, after Homeland Security approves, they pass the case on to the Department of State. There, National Visa Center contacts you via email and asks for an affidavit of support fee for $120 to to be paid online. And then a few days later, a visa application fee of $325, also paid online. After that, you're sending in the civil documents to NVC, and sometime down the line, the case is sent overseas. Prior to her interview, well, she needs to have the medical, and that will cost, again, roughly $200. Finally, after the interview, but before she departs on her way to the USA, there is one final fee to be paid. This time it is to USCIS, and it's called an immigrant fee. It is paid online, and the amount is $165. The final cost from submitting your visa petition to getting a green card is roughly $1,230. Here's a summary comparison between the fiancé and spouse visa. Initially, both applications start similarly with a petition filed to USCIS in the USA. The earliest time that you can file, well, for the K1 is it has to be after you've had your actual face-to-face meeting. Whereas for the spouse visa, it needs to be after the wedding. The average time to process, 5 to 7 months for a fiancé, 10 to 14 months for spouse. Total fees, $19.75 for K1, $12.30 for spouse. Now, after she arrives in the States for the K1 visa, she needs to file another application to apply for adjustment of status to get approved for permanent residency and to get her green card. Whereas after arrival on the spousal visa, her permanent residency is already pre-approved. So she only needs to confirm to USCIS her new address, and her green card will be sent to her. Immigration is always concerned about catching those who fraudulently enter into sham marriages solely for immigration purposes. The critical part of the interview process at the consulates is to determine if the couple is bona fide. The consular officer will closely question the petitioner to see if the application is based on a genuine relationship by a real couple. Now, I get phone calls from guys saying, well, there is no problem in the consulate believing the case is genuine because, after all, I'm spending good money to fly there, and I'm taking time out of my short visit to get legally married before I return to the States. So basically they're saying getting married and having a certificate makes it a big difference. It's not true. It doesn't make a big difference. So if you're in the middle of a long distance relationship and not living together, as far as being judged for the bona fides of your relationship, it makes no difference whether you are married or engaged. Married and living together is something, but married and living apart by long distance doesn't demonstrate anything. If your relationship is long distance and you are living separately and only spend limited actual time together, the existence or lack of a marriage certificate makes no material difference to the review process. The consular officer will base his judgment on whether your relationship is genuine, but all the usual ways a couple may prove their sincerity will come into play, not just that certificate of marriage. Finally, which visa is better? Well, it depends upon your priorities. If you want to start your life together as quickly as possible, the Fiance Visa makes sense because it's 6 months faster. And you don't have you don't have the green card yet, but you'll be living together while you're applying for that one. This compares with the spousal visa, where the green card is included in the process and you save $800. But because the green card is included, there's an additional 6-month delay for processing before your spouse can come and join you. If your spouse wants to work immediately after landing in the USA, well, the spouse visa will accomplish that. As she is pre-approved for permanent residency, she can go right from the airport to the office and start working the same day of arrival. Now, I'm recording this video May 2015. The information provided, to the best of my knowledge, is accurate, but immigration is a moving target. The fees and the processing times are constantly in flux, and occasionally the procedures change as well. Depending upon when you are watching this video, it probably would be a good idea, well, to call me or visit VisaCoach.com to check what the current information is. This is Fred Wall, the Visa Coach. I'm on your side. Call me.
Asking U.S. immigration for permission to bring your fiancé to America for marriage and happily ever after is a slow, complicated, and often frustrating process. It is all too easy to make crucial mistakes that cause delays and denials. Fred Wall, the Visa Coach, has written a short guide for couples contemplating fiancé immigration that points out the pitfalls, red flags, and common mistakes which cause problems, and how to avoid them. The Visa Coach is giving away this indispensable guide free of charge because visas shouldn't stand in the way of love. For you and your partner's peace of mind, don't do anything until you read this guide first. Get your free copy at visacoach.com/5.